Hey guys, so today I wanted to hop on here and talk to you guys about birth control. And the reason I wanted to do this topic on my channel is because I noticed that when it comes to being a woman, especially issues that relate to us, especially health issues, it's kind of a secret. Like nobody talks about it. It's kind of like we're taught to keep it to ourselves. Like it's shamed associated to anything. And I remember when I first found out I would need assistance with having more children, the first thing out of my mom's mouth was, "Who did you tell?" And I don't think it was to intentionally be hurtful or mean or anything like that. I just think it's kind of what we learn, a learned trait. We're learned to not speak on that stuff because if anything is wrong with you, it's something that you are told you should be ashamed of. I wanted to talk about birth control because nobody touches on this subject. And it's weird. I always found it to be weird and strange that the same thing that doctors give us to stop us from having unwanted pregnancies, unexpected pregnancies, or unplanned pregnancies is the same thing that they give some of us in order to get pregnant. So what does this stuff really do? So you telling me I could take this stuff to assist my body in doing what it needs to do in order to get pregnant, but you also is telling me take this stuff and it'll stop me from getting pregnant, and it's kind of weird. So I wanted to talk about the side effects of birth control. It doesn't matter if it's Depo, if it's an IUD, if it's numerous pills, if it's the implant that they put in your arm, or I don't know if they still have this, but back in the day when I was in my 20s, I'm 38 now, but back when I was in my early 20s, they had this foam, and it kind of worked as foam and lube. And I'm not going to go into details about how it worked, but it was quite gross. But they did have that, and no matter what type of birth control you were on, all of them had side effects. So I'm gonna tell you guys some of the side effects that I know about. I wrote them down, and I'm also going to tell you guys how birth control affected me. Hey guys, so I'm back. So these are some of the side effects that I know about, and I know about them because some of these side effects has affected me, or they have affected people that I know. Do your research. Google is your friend, Siri is your friend, and your doctor is your bestest bestie ever. Okay, so here we go. Birth control, it doesn't matter if you're taking a pill, if you want Depo, if you have an IUD, if you have the implant, or I don't know if they still have this birth control. This was what they had years ago when I was in my early 20s. I'm 38 now, but don't tell nobody. They had this foam stuff. It was like a foam, and right before you have sex, you're supposed to put it down there. It was really messy. It's very uncomfortable. I don't know if they still have it, but no matter what birth control you on, there is a possibility for you to have any of these side effects. It's also a possibility that you won't have any side effects at all, okay? Some of the side effects are spotting, nausea, sore breasts, headaches, migraines. It is different. Weight gain, mood swings, loss of sex drive. Whew, that's the worst. Missed periods, discharge. It can affect the vitamins in your body, such as B2, B6, and B12. It can also affect vitamin C, D, and E. Which is why a lot of times when you're going through fertility treatment, they'll tell you, hey, you need to take some vitamin D pills or iron pills or stuff like that. If you have an IUD and it's made of copper, over time that copper can start depleting the zinc from your body. In other words, it'll start pulling the zinc out of your body. Birth control can possibly cause heart attacks, strokes, blood clots, liver damage, tumors, and damage to your tissue. Birth control affected me by the excessive blood clots. It was not safe for me because I am severely anemic. I've been anemic since birth. So while on birth control, my blood clots was so big, like they was like the size of an egg. They were huge. It was very uncomfortable. It was a couple of times I had to go get a transfusion during my cycle. It was bad. It was a whole mess. Tumors. Birth control created a lot of tumors and cysts within my body, and tissue damage. It caused a lot of damage to my tissue. Right before my very first surgery, when they thought I had a dermoid cyst, they told me I had a lot of tissue damage. And my mom is a nurse, and she thought the doctor was crazy. She went off because as a nurse, she wasn't even aware that you can have scar tissue without getting cut. And basically how they explained it was scar tissue is just tissue damage. Doesn't matter how you word it, what you call it, ultimately it's the same thing. And by being on different birth control, I started with Depo. Since I still got pregnant while on Depo, I was not messing with it anymore. I was like, nope, you ain't do your job. So let me try this birth control. Let me try that birth control. I had a pink pack, a green pack, a blue pack, one that didn't even come in a pack. It was just plastic. Then I tried the foam. I mean, I've tried all types of birth control. I developed an allergic response to latex. I mean, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. But because I've tried so many things, I was actually putting my body through a lot, which caused a lot of tissue damage. And over time, that tissue and the tumors that developed start to take over my left tube. And when I say take over, the scar tissue started to grow around it. So say for instance, this is my tube. The scar tissue over time, it may started there and then it slowly worked its way up and wrapped itself around my tube and started to squeeze it. And when it started to squeeze my tube, it made my tube release fumes in my body, which caused miscarriages that I've had. So birth control can be very dangerous. One of the biggest things that I don't understand about birth control is what they give you to kind of control and prevent unwanted pregnancies, unplanned pregnancies. Yeah. I was about to say, I don't want to say unwanted, but you got to be honest. Every pregnancy isn't wanted, and it is what it is. And the same thing that they give you to stop these pregnancies is the same thing that they give you to get you pregnant. So it's kind of like, is this medication really doing what it's supposed to do? Like, this stuff can do a lot to your body. As I've shared with you guys before, just off of my fertility journey, I did 3 cycles of IVF where I had to take birth control for a month each time. You might as well say 30 days each time. So I was on birth control for, let's say, total of 90 days in the year 2017. And each time it put a lot of weight on me. I went from 210, I think I was around 210 to 260 just off the birth control and the injections of steroids. It completely took my sex drive away at that time. Sex what? With who? Like, I just had, it was like sometimes I wanted it because I knew I needed it, but I didn't want it because, you know, my body was like, ooh, get it, girl. You know, it really affected me in a lot of ways. Mood swings was on 1,000. I was crying at everything. I could see a beautiful butterfly outside and I'm in tears. Or I was cussing people out. Migraines, tender breasts. It is all of the side effects is ridiculous. I would never tell anybody to not get on birth control. I recently, well not recently, maybe a year or so, I had an awkward conversation with my daughter. I have a 19-year-old, so any conversation about birth control, anything is weird, because that makes me feel like one day somebody's little son is gonna be touching my daughter, and it's just like, ooh, I'm gonna kill your son, and I ain't even met him yet. It's uncomfortable. But she had a conversation with me about it because she wanted to prepare herself for just in case. Why? Because just like I did, she had her life planned out the way she wanted it and the way that she wanted to start. And although she wants kids one day, she knows she's not ready for them now. So I had to sit down and talk to her about different types of birth control, ones that's better and ones that's not. And I also had to have a tough conversation and letting her know all the things that mommy has gone through because of birth control. It's definitely one of them things that I think is necessary and needed if done correctly. I don't even want to say done correctly, because there's no wrong way to take your birth control unless you just miss taking your pill. But birth control is one of them things where you have to hope for the best while preparing for the worst, because they cannot guarantee you don't get pregnant. It's like a 97% chance of them stopping a pregnancy. That 3% counts. I have a beautiful daughter because of that 3%. I'm telling you, it counts. And I just want you guys to be prepared for any possible side effects. It's some people that don't have any side effects at all. My niece is like fertile myrtle. Like, I swear, if somebody wink at her, she's pregnant. And she tries birth control and she gets on birth control and it works great. She has no side effects. I have friends who has no side effects. I have other friends who has had all of the side effects listed and they refuse to do it. And because of the birth control and the side effects that they gave, now they're scared to even try to get pregnant. It's like a big mess. So let's talk about it. If you've taken birth control at all, what was your experience, good or bad? Let's have an open discussion about this. And let me just put this disclaimer out there. This isn't a topic where you're wrong and she's right or anything like that. This is something that all of us can discuss because we're women, and although we're women, we have the same parts, but all of our parts are different. So my experience may not be your experience, and your experience may not be my experience. So let's talk about it. Until next time, bye guys.